When Kia first introduced the all-electric EV6 earlier this year, it really changed a lot of people's perception of Kia and what you should expect from an all-electric crossover. Now, I already had a chance to spend some time with the Wind and the GT line, but however, as an enthusiast, I've been more interested in driving the high-performance version. And today, I'm actually out here at Las Vegas Motor Speedway to drive what is the most powerful production Kia ever, the 2023 EV6 GT. Because what Kia has done here is they have added an extra 256 horsepower to the electric motors of this vehicle, so we have nearly 600 horsepower and over 200 miles of range. So if you guys have been on the lookout for an all-electric crossover that has some serious performance, how does the 2023 EV6 GT stack up? Stay tuned to find out. Now, before we start talking about the exterior styling, the million-dollar question with any electric vehicle is, does it have a frunk? And because this model is the same lovely version of the eGMP architecture, I am happy to report that it does have a frunk, albeit a very small one. Now, when you look underneath the hood of the EV6 GT, you're gonna find this plastic covering. However, when you lift this up, you can see it has a small, about 0.9 cubic foot frunk, which again is only usable for the mobile charger that this car doesn't come with from the factory. You have to buy it as a dealer accessory. But again, it's nice that Kia at least gives you that. But since we're underneath here, let's go ahead and talk about the motor specs, because the GT basically only comes with the bigger 77.4 kilowatt hour battery pack. Kia actually killed the light trim level, which had the smaller 58 kilowatt hour battery pack. So all of them have the big pack. And what they've done here is they've taken the rear electric motor from the back axle on the regular GT line and they've put it on the front, and then they've increased the output of the rear electric motor to 270 kilowatts, and you have 160 kilowatts. That makes for a grand total of 576 horsepower. That's a substantial 256 horsepower increase over a GT line, and you also get 545 pound-feet of torque. Remember, this car competes with vehicles like the Tesla Model Y Performance and the Ford Mustang Mach-E GT Performance, which technically the Ford has about 100 less horsepower than this vehicle, but it does have slightly more torque. But again, Kia is giving you a ton of value here in terms of horsepower per dollar. It all goes out through a 1-speed reduction gear transmission. This vehicle does have all-wheel drive with an electronic limited slip rear differential on the rear axle. And there's also a hidden drift mode where you can do some donuts and smoky burnouts in this car, which is pretty cool for an electric vehicle. Now, it does have the same battery pack, and the range has dropped substantially because of the extra performance and the slightly extra weight. Kia says you can go about 206 miles on a full charge, which this vehicle does run on the 800-volt architecture, which I'll talk about that when we go into the charge port door area. And in terms of towing capacity, this will still tow, surprisingly, up to 2,300 pounds. It'll do 0 to 60, Kia says, in 3.4 seconds. So we're actually out here at a drag strip. We'll see what we can get in our actual testing. It has a top speed of 161 miles an hour. And as this car sits, it weighs in at around 4,800 pounds. So it's around 200 pounds heavier versus a GT line. But let's go ahead and close up the hood and talk about the exterior styling. I actually haven't had a chance to show you guys this color. This is called Yacht Blue. It's one of my favorite colors that you can get on the EV6 family. You can essentially get the same colors on the other trims on the GT. You can see Kia went with a very subtle design change for this model. It's very much a sleeper. It has the same very interesting futuristic design cues of the standard EV6. You can see all of them come with these full LED reflector style headlights. You have LED low beams, LED high beams. You have an LED turn signal with an LED daytime running light. No fog lights. However, you can see at the front fascia, Kia calls this design language opposites united. You have this kind of interesting interpretation of their signature tiger nose grille, the Kia logo here with the metallic stainless steel look to the logo, and you have, again, some different grille inserts. The front bumper has technically been changed, where you have this vertical slat down here at the lower front splitter, a little bit more piano black. You really would have to put the GT line and the GT side by side to see the differences, but I have to say, this is already a good looking crossover, so it didn't really need too many styling changes. Remember, this is going to be the basis of the upcoming Hyundai Ioniq 5N, and I suspect that's going to have more styling changes versus a GT line to a GT. Now, moving around the side profile, you can see this rides on the same eGMP architecture, which means the wheelbase is big. It's a 114-inch long wheelbase, the same as the Telluride, and its overall length is around 184.5 inches long. So this is slightly longer versus the Ioniq 5, its cousin. And then you can see the wheels. These are bigger wheels that you get on the GT. They're a 21-inch wheel wrapped in a Goodyear Eagle F1 summer tire. So I'm surprised Kia didn't go with a Michelin tire, but again, this is a summer tire. The brakes have been upgraded. They are a 15-inch rotor at the front, a 14.2-inch at the back. You have these 4-piston neon green calipers, which I love the way these brakes look. I kind of wish that Kia had put some kind of Kia logo on there or something, like a Brembo logo or something like that, to kind of give the brakes a little bit more of a standout design. But I love the neon green, and then the tires are massively wide for an EV, 255/40 R21. This is actually 10 millimeter wider tires versus what you get on a Mustang Mach-E GT Performance, which is kind of interesting. Although I believe the tire size the width is the same as the GT line. You just have, again, a 21-inch wheel versus a 20-inch wheel. Now you can see the hood has kind of like a clamshell design where it comes over the fenders. The GT lines and GTs, you can see, have body colored wheel archers. You have black accents along the side skirts, black side mirrors with an integrated turn signal, and then all the GTs come standard with the panoramic roof, which actually does open. Remember, the Ioniq 5 doesn't have a sunroof that actually opens up, although you can see it only goes over halfway into the rear seats, so that's something to keep in mind if you're looking for an all-glass roof. The door handles, you can see, still pop out, and it really looks great in this yacht blue exterior color in the sun with the neon green accents, which I'll show you guys that in the interior. And then looking at the back, you can see there's not really much in terms of differentiation between a GT line. You can see you have that same kind of almost alien-like design to the full-length light bar LED taillights. In other markets, Kia actually puts a sequential turn signal that extends into the lower portion here, but you can see in the US they don't do that. Instead, you have some dark chrome. There is just a GT badge back here as opposed to GT line. And then if you look at the rear lower bumper, you can see there are some vertical slats here for the accents for the taillights. So different versus the horizontal lines that you get on the GT line. Then your reverse light is over here. It's just a fully LED light bulb down there. Now, opening up the cargo area, remember this is Kia calls this an SUV, but it's really just a tall hatchback for me. Cargo capacity is decent. You can see when you have the second row seats up, they do actually fold down, or they do fold down, and they also recline. I believe you get around 24 cubic feet of space, which is fine. It's about what you expect from a small hatch. Fold down the seats and it expands out to a little over 50 cubic feet, which is fine. But remember, some of the bigger competitors that have less of a sloping roof are going to give you more space. Now, there was a small frunk in the front of the vehicle. Back here, you can see there's also a little bit of extra storage, which is nice. You can also find a little bit more underfloor storage, it looks like down here, where you'll find some additional structural bracing and whatnot. The seats do fold down from actually back here, so you can again pull that, it'll fold down the seats, which is pretty nice. And then I want to show you guys really quick over here. This is the charge port door, which, as you can see, it is electronic, but you can see the vehicle comes standard with the J1772 plug, and then you have a CCS combo plug here. And the Kia EV6 remains one of the quickest charging vehicles in the segment. And you're gonna want that, of course, with this model, because with only 206 miles of range, you're gonna be charging a little bit more often, but thankfully, you can go from 10 to 80% in about 18 minutes because this vehicle can accept up to 350 kilowatts, as long as you could find that faster 350 kilowatt charger. On board, it has a 10.9 kilowatt charger, which means you can go at a level 2 charger at your home on a 48 amp in probably around 7 hours, which is still pretty quick. Kia still offers their vehicle to load feature, which allows you to basically turn this vehicle into a rolling battery pack for those of you who want to go camping, or you want to plug an external outlet or external device where you can use this car as, again, like a battery pack. So let's go ahead and talk about the interior of the EV6 GT, because on the outside, as you guys saw, there aren't really that many changes compared to a GT line. But let me first show you guys the key fob. You can see this is the same key fob that we see on every other new Kias. It has kind of almost like a detonator style look. It also has their smart park feature, and you also can remote start the vehicle from the fob. If you also have access to the Kia app, you can also do the same thing from your smartphone. And you can see the door handles, they pop in and out. The mirrors will electrically fold in. And then when you unlock the door or lock the door, they will pop in and out, which is pretty nice. It's an interesting design, definitely makes the car look a little bit more futuristic. Now you can see the GT gets its own unique interior in terms of the seats. Black is the only interior color choice, but you can see this is the only Kia ever to get these kind of Recaro style sport bucket seats. These actually remind me a lot of the same seats that you find in some Hyundai N products. It even says GT here, although it doesn't light up like you find on the Elantra N or the Veloster N or the Kona N. But you can see here, love the neon green piping and stitching. You can see there's Alcantara here, there's leather on the outside. The downside about these seats, however, is the fact that you have manual adjustments. So you have a 4-way manual seat, there's a height adjustment here, or it's a 6-way manual seat, recline, and then you can move the seat forward and back. There's no adjustable lumbar, it looks like. And these seats are heated, but they took away the 8-way power driver's seat with the 2-person memory that you got on the GT line, along with the ventilated seat. So that's something to keep in mind. If you guys want that feature, the GT does not offer that premium touch. But thankfully, the rest of the interior you can see is pretty nice. You have soft touch injection molded plastic here, aluminum and piano black trim. You have suede Alcantara down here for the armrest. Down here it is hard touch plastic, but you still get the 10-speaker Meridian surround sound system, which sounds okay. It's not the best that I've heard in the industry. And you can see this is a crossover, but I believe it has like less than 6 inches of ground clearance. So again, it is more of a taller hatch. And you'll notice that as you get in the car, it feels like I'm stepping down into a sporty vehicle, a hot hatch, as opposed to a crossover. But as I get in and shut the door has a nice solid sounding thunk, and you can see all the GTs will come with the full 12.3 inch display. It's actually two 12.3 inch displays. As I start the vehicle up, you can see the displays come to life. You have a 12.3 inch display here, and then you also have a 12.3 inch display here that has Kia's latest infotainment system. Sadly, it still does not have wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto, nor does it have over-the-air updates. Kia says that won't be coming until sometime in 2025, most likely, and I suspect they're going to have a new interface, a new infotainment system. But you can see here, this system looks pretty high-tech, though. It's like a big wall of screens, very Mercedes-like, as you guys have seen before. You can see going to the system here, there's like a special EV mode here. There's the CarPlay. My phone's connected via a USB-A connector down here. You can see the screen itself is pretty quick and snappy and responsive. It looks pretty good as well, and I think it's a good size. Although if you're coming out of something like the Mustang Mach-E, that has a bigger 15-inch display that's mounted vertically. That to me looks better, and it also has wireless CarPlay. Now in terms of materials, you can see this is a hard touch plastic, but it has kind of like this interesting fake leatherette textured material with this kind of ridged area. You can see over in this area, it's also hard touch plastic. There is a head-up display, which is standard on the GTs. It has augmented reality. And then you can see here the steering wheel is a manual tilt and telescoping. It has the new Kia logo, of course. It has a flat bottom design, and then Kia added some neon green stitching here, again, to differentiate it. The horn sounds good. It doesn't sound puny, which is nice. And then you can see your drive mode selector here. This is pretty much the same as the regular EV6 GT line. However, there's another separate button here that's green. Push that, that goes into your GT drive mode or a My mode, where you can custom tailor the actual drive mode to whatever setting you'd like. This is where you're going to get the full 576 horsepower. You have to be in GT mode. When you're in sport or normal mode, the computer will actually limit the power to around 429 horsepower, which is the same as what you're going to get in something like the Genesis GV60 Performance, this car's platform mate. You put the car into eco mode, it'll limit the power to around 286 ponies. So it's going to be very, very slow in this mode, but it's why it's going to give you the best range. I was actually showing around 206 miles on a full charge when this thing was fully charged. Right now it's at 91%. It has around 198 miles of range on a full charge. Now, this infotainment system is pretty simple to use. It has ambient lighting. You can see there's some of that green throughout the dashboard as well. You can kind of custom tailor that ambient lighting if you'd like. And then when you put the vehicle in traverse, you can see Kia does give you a full 360 camera with trajectory. It has backup parking sensors, front parking sensors. You can also do a full 360 perimeter scan. So this is very German, although I'm surprised here this is actually a GT line in the picture. I wish it also color matched. That's a smaller detail that I wish Kia would do. But again, it's something that's me, I guess, nitpicking a little bit. Down here you can see the regular GT line will have ventilated seats, but you can see there's empty buttons here. Instead, you just have 3-level cooled seats. These are or heated seats. These are actual buttons as opposed to being a touch-sensitive panel. They feel high quality and tactile. You have some aluminum trim over here. This controls your 1-speed reduction gear transmission. If you push that, this gives you your camera as well. If you want to do a perimeter scan, there's a wireless phone charging pad here, which you can see here. It also has ventilation to allow for cooling of your device. And then there's 2 cup holders over here. A big storage cubby down here, which is going to be good for hiding some some items down there. And you can see, open this up, there's a pretty decent sized center console area. If you're looking for USBs, there's 2 of them right there. And then there's a third one there. and then a 120 volt outlet over there, so no power outlet. That's actually gonna be in the back seats. These seats, I do believe they are taken directly from a Hyundai N product. They are relatively comfortable and supportive. They definitely feel a little bit more firm. I do wish that Kia offered power seats on this trim, but sadly you lose that to get the seats. You can see the glove compartment, it's relatively big, good size. It's damped but not lined with felt. You can see the rear view mirror is auto dimming. Kia doesn't offer a digital camera rear view mirror. There's LED map lighting in here, and then you can see here this panoramic sunroof. It does open, or it also has a retractable shade. It actually is about the size of a regular sunroof on the inside. Maybe it's a little bit larger, but you can see it actually opens up, which again, most competitors don't allow you to do that. But overall, the interior in the front definitely is still very nice. It has most of the stuff that you could want in terms of technology. I just wish it had like wireless CarPlay, but I love the augmented reality GPS and I love the 2 screens. But let me go ahead and hop into the back seat and show you guys the space over here, because the EV6 has a long wheelbase, which means you get around 38 inches of legroom back here, which is the same as what you're gonna find as like a Mustang Mach-E or a Tesla Model Y. You can see this is where I'd have the front seat to drive. Getting back here at 5'7", there's actually a pretty good amount of legroom back here. And when I shut the door has that same solid thunk. Materials back here are hard touch plastic, so they did downgrade that, but thankfully you do have heated seats back here, 2 levels, which is nice. In terms of the headroom, you can see I'm 5'7", so I have a pretty good amount of headspace. The sunroof does take up a little bit of space in general. You have 2 USB-C charging ports. You have rear seat air vents back here. And then down under here, you can see there is a actual 115 volt or 120 volt household power outlet, which is nice. These seats, they do recline and they fold down, and you also have an armrest here that folds down. You also have a little bit of storage behind those, or underneath that cup holder, which is nice. But overall, if you want to use this as a family vehicle, the EV6 will certainly suffice, but it does have slightly less headroom versus some of its competitors, which have technically a taller roof. All right, so here we are finally behind the wheel of the most powerful production Kia ever. I've never thought I'd see the day where I'd be driving a Kia that has almost 600 horsepower, but here we are today in this crazy world where Kia claims this car will do 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds. Now, if you're gonna keep score of that time, a Porsche Taycan GTS, according to Porsche, will do it in 3.5 seconds. Now, granted, I've seen the Germans be conservative. Kia actually also claims that this time is also a conservative time. We have a top speed of 161 miles an hour. That is just incredible performance figures from any brand, let alone a Kia. So I'm just super excited to drive this vehicle. Now, we are starting off the state of charge here at around 91%. It's showing around 185 miles on a full charge. Keep in mind, I mentioned earlier, in the drive modes, if you're in Eco, you only have around 286 horsepower. In Normal and Sport, you have 429 horsepower. But to access the full power, you have to go to GT here. But once you hit that GT mode, which you can also go into a separate drive mode, this is where you can get the full 3.4 seconds, according to their claim. So let's go ahead and pull up here, and we'll brake torque it and see what we can get. Ooh! Oh my God. 3.44 seconds there, which again, we're at 90% state of charge. I suspect I could probably end up doing a slightly quicker time, but this is the mode that you can essentially allow the vehicle to give you a little bit more of a rear drive feel, because when you have it in this mode, the stability control actually goes into a less restrictive setting, and you guys saw there, I literally was able to let the tail step out, which is just absolutely hilarious in an electric vehicle. And the cool thing is, this is a crossover, but it feels like I'm driving just a slightly taller hot hatch. It's amazing to me, the handling dynamics. This car has its own adaptive dampers, so we have adjustable suspension. We have these bigger 21-inch wheels. We have these stickier summer tires, although right now it's about 55 degrees here in Vegas. But overall, I'm just shocked with the overall feel. I literally feel like I'm driving a hot hatch, and anytime I just put my foot down this car, that is insanely quick. Now, you're also noticing there's a slight noise. This vehicle has like a sound generator. There's 3 different sound settings. I have it in the dynamic setting now, which I believe is a unique sound enhancer for this model in general. Holy crap, that is so fast. This easily feels quicker than the Mach-E GT Performance that I had. I just traded that car. The best I got in the Ford was around 3.7 seconds, but this car is just absolutely insane. I bet you it can do it again. Oh my God, it's so fast. 3.3 there. 3.3 in a Kia. I mean, let alone a Kia. This is insanely quick performance for any electric vehicle. And you can do that all day long. There's consistency in the power. The tail likes to step out whenever you get feisty with the accelerator. Like, this is... I never thought I'd live to see the day we'd be driving a Kia that's this fast. I mean, I'm looking forward to putting this car to a comparison test with the Ford, with the Tesla. Whenever Hyundai decides to come out with the Ioniq 5N, that's going to be impressive. Now, I will mention in GT mode, the driving or the ride is definitely noticeably firmer. You go into normal or sport, and that actually lightens up the dampers or softens the dampers. It's not quite as firm, which is nice. It is still a firmer ride than what you're used to in the Wind or the GT line, because remember, it's got a stiffer tuned suspension. But overall, visibility is good. This car comes standard with the Drive Wise package. And I did test the 0 to 60 earlier in this car in normal mode. It does it in around 3.9 seconds in normal and sport mode. So it's still quicker versus a GT line in full power. So the performance in this car is about the same as a GV60 performance in sport mode, and then you push GT mode and it amps it up to the next level, which kind of makes me think, could Genesis do a higher performance version of the GV60? I don't know. Let's hope that they have something like that planned, but overall, oh my God, this is one seriously quick car. And Kia did set up some track driving. I'm gonna see if I can get some footage in that, but overall out on the road, you're gonna notice this car, even in sport, super fast acceleration. So Kia did a phenomenal job with the overall package if you guys are an enthusiast and you want something that's a little bit faster. All right, so here we are back at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. The last time I was here, I was in a Nissan Z. So to be here in an all-electric Kia on a track, I'm in GT mode right now. Wow, this thing definitely lets the tail step out with the stability control turned off. Ooh. Wow, that's hilarious. I have never experienced anything like this before. This is my first time taking an all-electric vehicle out on the track. And what's cool is you've got the regen braking that allows you to slow the vehicle down, but then you also have the friction brakes, which... This thing just wants to slide everywhere. That's hilarious. The brakes on this vehicle do feel relatively strong. They're 15-inch rotors in the front, 4-piston calipers, but you feel the weight. The tires are squealing under all this inertia that I'm just putting my foot down here. Wow, I never thought I could have this much fun in an electric crossover. But again, I stress that this car feels more like a hot hatch to me versus an SUV. But the steering actually is pretty sharp. It gives you some decent feedback and really good heft. The brakes, they feel strong. I get hard on them a couple times, but the regen braking really helps the one-pedal drive. But see, hear those tires squealing because it's a lot of weight. You can't really hide the weight, but the back just likes to fishtail. And the cool thing is the electric motors, because it's a computer, it actually will turn itself, the front motor, back on. So it lets you drift out. But then as soon as you put your foot down, the front motors will re-engage and it'll kind of help claw you out of a corner. That is so much fun. That is hilarious. And the cool thing is I'm doing it in absolute silence because, again, there's no internal combustion engine. Oh, this thing feels so quick. Holy moly, it's fast. I mean, hard on the brakes here, you can feel really good response from that brake pedal. I never thought that I would drive an EV that makes me smile. I mean, the last EV that I drove that made me smile was a Taycan or a BMW i4. But the EV6 GT can do that as well as an enthusiast, and it can do it for a lot less money. So for those of you who follow the electric vehicle space very closely, you'll know that the eGMP architecture is a very impressive platform to start with. Just like its platform mate, the Ioniq 5, the Genesis GV60, the Kia EV6 is an incredibly well-rounded vehicle, and really, it's one of the best electric SUVs that are out there, especially when you want something that's quick charging, that has a very nice interior with great technology, that has really great handling, it has futuristic styling, and it also now has incredible performance. Because because after spending the day with the GT version of this car, it consistently ripped 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds. I'll have to retest that when I get one back home. I suspect it's actually going to be slightly quicker when I get my hands on it in my actual home area. But even after we used up the battery pack, when we turned off the cameras, I kept trying out a 0 to 60 time when the battery pack dropped down to below 70%. We actually got it down to around 25%. It still did 0 to 60 in 3.9 seconds at 25% charge. At around 50% charge, it was still doing around 3.5 seconds. So again, incredibly quick car that makes it faster versus a Tesla Model Y Performance and a Ford Mustang Mach-E GT Performance. And it also has better handling because it is the lighter vehicle between at least the Ford. And Kia has really just done a really great job with the suspension tuning, the steering, the look of this car. And even though I wish it looked a little bit more different versus a standard GT line, I suspect for those of you who want something that stands out a little bit more, you can easily check out the Hyundai Ioniq 5N whenever the company decides to reveal that, which should be sometime early in 2023. Which now brings me, of course, to the best part about the EV6 GT, and that's the price, because Kia did raise the price of the standard EV6 for 2023 because they got rid of the light wind trim level and the smaller battery pack. So now these start at around $48,000 plus $5,000 if you guys want the dual motor all-wheel drive. Now, a GT line with all-wheel drive is going to cost around $57,400 plus a $1,295 destination. This car here is actually only $4,000 more versus a GT line with all-wheel drive. So it starts at $61,400 plus destination. There are really no options to add. Kia makes this car very, very well equipped, although they did decontent it because you can't get ventilated seats or power seats with memory like you can get on the GT line. But still, with the destination charge and the cargo accessory that this car has, we are looking at an as-tested price of $62,865. $63,000 is a bargain for what you're getting here in terms of performance, because if you want a Tesla Model Y Performance, that's going to cost you around $70,000. And if you want a Ford Mustang Mach-E GT, that's going to cost you $69,000, $75,000 for the Performance Edition. So again, Kia has really given us a ton of value here, and that doesn't surprise me. The Koreans have always been great at giving you a ton of value. So for $63,000, if you're looking for speed and you're looking for fast charging and technology and excellent handling, this is going to give something like a Porsche Taycan a run for its money, because the Porsche is easily double the price. And while some of you would argue you can't compare a Kia with a Porsche in terms of performance, they are very, very similar. In fact, the Kia may even be quicker. It'd be interesting to see a drag race between the two. Where is this? Where is it? I don't even see it. Oh, there it is. Ugh. Now, that being said, I do want to point out that this car does not qualify, sadly, for the $7,500 federal tax credit because it is built in Ulsan, Korea. So that's something to keep in mind. However, even though it doesn't qualify for the tax credit, if you compare it to something like the Mach-E, which still does because it's built in Mexico, the Kia will still end up being the less expensive vehicle. And it's really going to probably force some manufacturers to rethink the pricing of some of their EVs, because it just made a lot of other cars in this segment appear a lot more expensive. And quite frankly, I'm not sure it's worth the extra money. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the 2023 Kia EV6 GT. If you're looking for a fast electric crossover that has decent range but can seriously smoke a lot of supercars, you should definitely be putting this one at the very top of your list. But thanks so much for watching, guys. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.